know.
So supposedly we are now live. So
That's what it says.
fingers crossed.
That's what
Hello,
I'm hoping.
everyone. It's been a little while since we've done a live stream. Things are a little bit rusty, to say the least.
It's been a
But
minute.
assuming this is working, welcome to Dark Histories live stream. I'm Ben, as always, and with me got Hallie today. Hallie, I'm not sure if it's probably most people who've seen the live streams before are going to know Hallie. If not, Hallie does a lot of the like behind the scenes stuff with the podcast, like the merch store, all of the Discord. Texting me at 4 a.m. to say, do your work, like stop slacking. So really, Hallie basically keeps me in check. So yeah, that's Hallie. Hallie, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, that's my job. Hey Ben, you've got an episode due. Are you gonna drop that anytime soon?
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much our conversation. Like every week, every other week. Like, yeah, you're gonna drop that episode this week, yeah? Sometime, anytime now.
Anytime. Anytime is good. Like yesterday would be great, but tomorrow's fine too.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if it wasn't probably for Hallie, then the episodes would probably never be done. We'd probably
You
still be on
know,
episode 2.
it's just that you kind of live in your own space-time continuum, kind of like Santa Claus.
I
You just
like that. I see. I think I've taken that idea of things will happen when they happen to the extreme, and that's not very good when you've got a bi-weekly podcast. Lotus Flower. Hey
Oh,
Ben. Wow, it's been a long time.
I
Um,
know.
And we got Morelli as well. It's been a long
Yeah,
time. So yeah, it's been a long time since we've done a stream, isn't it? Like it's got to be
it's
is it a year or is it as
been
much as a year?
about a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where we used to stream a lot, like frequently, and then we sort of stopped and so we're going to cut down, and it just ended up kind of completely stopping.
Well, I think the thing is that initially when we would do the streams, we would do like one a month. Initially when we did them, the nature of the episodes were different, or was different, I
Yeah,
should say. Um, there was usually more of kind of like an open for discussion type question at the end of the episode.
yeah,
So it was always something like, like room 1046. It was like, who did it? How did that happen?
yeah. Then we got to those episodes where actually there wasn't much to discuss, and
Yeah, and then you kind of like shifted a little bit, so there wasn't so much of an open type conspiracy road we could go down
yeah, yeah.
in order to figure out, just to kind of spur discussion that. And I mean, the nature kind of had to change because of everything and, what was available to you research wise and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's well, we'll talk a bit about that about the season, but yeah.
yeah, but it is what it is. Everybody's, doing their thing, and the podcast is still going strong. So
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think
If
it's
there's any
fun.
audio issues, by the way, let me know. Like if anyone needs to go up in
Yeah.
volume or down in volume, because I like everything's a little bit ropey. Like so yeah, if I'm too quiet or if Hallie's too quiet or
Or
whatever,
if I'm
then,
too
then do
quiet.
let
Yeah.
us know. And I can try and sort that out here. But yeah. So I mean, that's a good place to start, really, isn't it? Season 5 is all done and dusted. And you mentioned about the whole kind of like the nature of things changing. It's been, I think, fun. Like, so I just finished writing the like the forward to the season 5 book, and I was writing a bit about like the challenges of this season and stuff, and how actually this has been the hardest season since I started Dark Histories, bar none, to like get episodes out. And it's really funny because actually when we had that first year of lockdown, I thought that was going to be difficult, and I changed the way I had to do a lot of the research and stuff. And in fact, it didn't actually get any easier this season. It actually just got more complicated because things opened up, but they didn't really fully open up. And things were like, oh yeah, we're open now, but you need this and that, and you can only come at these times. And so actually, like things just got more complicated. So this season was a bastard. What happened to Moya? Well, there's a question. Well, that's
Dark
just changed
histories happened.
tack completely. Moya is my absolute baby, and I love the fact that you know it and that you've listened to it, because it's my pride and joy is Moya.
It, it's great, and it really is kind of a work in unto itself. But the problem with that is that it takes so much time.
I think the thing with Moya is like it's so, like I have to do it when I'm sort of feeling it because it's like a bit more creative, if you know what I mean. But so what happened to Moya is I planned to do a second season and I planned it all out and written it all out, but I just never actually got around to like fully writing it up. So what
Mhm.
I've done, but then what I actually ended up doing was sacking that idea off. And Moya at the moment, as it stands right now, is now like a fully fledged novel that's about three-quarters finished. Because what I've gone is gone where I'd written it, because I wrote it right from the start with the idea of doing like 20-minute episodes, which meant that each chapter was about 2 to 4,000 words, I think. And obviously that's like not really like a fully fledged novel. And I found that I was like cutting back on some things. Like I wasn't being able to dig deep enough because I had to keep it to that 20-minute length.
Mhm.
So what I've done is I've gone back in and I've just rewritten every single chapter, and it were chapters that needed fleshing out, got fleshed out and stuff like
Let me
that.
freak you guys out for a second.
It's
Sorry.
you all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
It's so yeah, Moya at the moment is about a three-quarters complete novel that's considerably longer. Like every chapter's had like at least doubled in size. There's like fully fledged kind of like back history now. A fully fledged national anthem that they sing at school, which is amazing because I had to like research like these like kind of communist national anthems and stuff,
That's
and
right.
the kind of the kind of that feel and of the you know the writing that they used, the lyrics they use and stuff. So that was fun to do. So yeah, Moya is still a thing. It probably will never be another audio thing, but it's going to definitely come out as a fully fledged novel probably within the next year.
Yeah, which is
no,
good.
no,
I
no
mean,
promises, but that
no,
I
but
would say because thing is, I write Moya when I'm like got like when I'm not kind of feeling dark histories and I've got the time. But generally speaking, like 99% of my writing time is dedicated to dark history. So it Moya happens like when it happens, really.
mhm.
But I absolutely love the fact that you listen to it. Thank you very much because I like Moya is my baby. Like dark histories, of course, is like what I enjoy doing, and it's like the big thing. But Moya is like it's a little bit more personal. It feels because it's kind of like fiction, so it feels like it's come from a bit more of a personal space. Because when I'm writing about history, like in dark histories, it doesn't matter. It's not me. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like the person who collated the information and I'm just repeating other information. Whereas dark, like Moya, that feels very personal. It's always felt like a bit more of like my baby, and no one listened to it. So I love the fact that you listened to it. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed it.
The spirit tapes. He says the spirit tapes were horrifying. Um,
Oh, so you mean the Vietnam ones?
I was gonna say, is that the supernatural and war tapes? Is that what you're talking about? KRC Maine? Isn't that the one,
The
right?
what one? Sorry.
The supernatural and war?
Yes, I think so. I think that's probably what the one they're talking about. It's funny actually. That got kind of mixed reviews. So I
Yeah,
got
I thought it was
I
too.
got an email from someone who absolutely panned me, and they were like, "Yeah, didn't like it. Audio was crap. That went on too long. You're really shit." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I mean, it's nice to hear that sometimes. You need to hear it because it's like I don't really just want everyone going, "Yeah, everything you do is brilliant." Do you know? It's nice to hear someone, and he was being like good critical as well. He wasn't just saying, "Oh,
Oh,
you're
okay.
crap." He was being like, this was that and this was that. But yeah, it's interesting that some people really didn't like that the spirit tapes. I thought so my thing with that spirit tape episode was that I really wanted to play as much as that spirit tape as possible because I wanted people to hear what it was all about. And I got a few emails from people saying it's too long. Like it was just like nails on a chalkboard and it was going on too long. So actually, I re-put out that episode because there was an error on it anyway. I'd ballsed up the editing at the end, so I re-put it out, and when I re-put it out, I cut it down. I took out about half of it, like edited the tape down, which I wasn't originally going to do. But yeah, I liked that episode, and I loved those spirit tapes. Those Vietnam tapes were amazing. I thought they were hilarious, and really interesting, like fascinating from um, like a just a perspective, like the perspective of like looking into like the that's kind of psyops and psychological warfare and stuff. I thought that bit was really, really interesting.
Yeah,
We've
it's
got
funny
Rich Mitch in the
because
house. Hey, Rich
look
Mitch.
looking at the duration, like the runtime, it's on the lower end. Like the original release
Oh yeah.
was on the lower end,
Mm.
which was kind of funny. There's always other Alicia asked, were there other stories you found that you didn't include? Always. There's always other
Yeah,
stories.
yeah. There's Supernatural and War. If there was loads, there was so many. Um, Especially a lot of stories of. Yeah, and so I did that story about the BBC girls in Bristol who had the haunted house. I found a lot of stories like that, and the only
Hmm.
reason I went with that one was because I could actually corroborate some of the information. I found a lot of this, like I found the house, for example, and I found records of the house actually existing, and I found records of the BBC girls being there, and I
Hmm.
found court records and things like that of them of the dispute that they had. So I went with that because in my mind, which I didn't actually use a lot of that as in the episode, a lot of the records and stuff. I didn't really need to use it as there was nothing to really quote. But in my mind, it was like, okay, at least this is grounded in a bit more reality. So I used that one. Um, I say grounded in reality for a ghost story. Um, yeah, so that's why I went with that one. But I found a lot of stories that were just like that about people who were had been evacuated or were using big old houses as like headquarters and stuff for various organizations that were saying that they were haunted, which was really interesting. And I thought, I mean, I don't know, Hallie, what you think, but I thought probably paid more was probably more to do with the fact that it was people who are usually from like quite like urban built up urban areas going out to like rural areas and going to these old creaky rural houses all of a sudden, and they were coming up, suddenly everything was
I'm just gonna
haunted.
close my blinds real quick.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes, I thought that was had probably a lot more to do with it than actual ghost stories, because there was an abundance of ghost stories like that. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I think it probably, yeah, it might. I don't know. Hasn't
What
really
is
done
that?
anything,
Oh,
but
other side. Hold on.
but yeah, there was a ton of stories. I could have, yeah, especially interestingly, like World War I had loads of stories, but they were all kind of a variation on a theme. Um,
We usually do live streams at night.
oh yeah, and then World War II had a really different everything completely changed. So in World War I, there was a lot of spiritual and spiritualist kind of stuff. In World War II, it was all kind of creepy ghost stories in houses, which was really interesting because it was almost completely different their view on ghosts. Because in World War I, a lot of it was kind of like reassurance and a lot of like religious iconography to it. Whereas World War II, it was much more like creepy ghosts in the barn, um, which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, Hallie, what do you think of that? Did you think that probably it was more to do with the fact that people were evacuated? Because that was my take on it.
No, I think so. I think that's pretty much spot on.
They're kind of like bunged into a place where they didn't have any experience of, and they were like, "Oh my god, what's that noise? What's that
Yeah, I
noise?
mean,
What's that noise?"
when you're in a strange environment and you've got so much external pressure going on with that type of a situation, I mean, you're in a wartime situation, things aren't going to be the same. I mean, it does something to you mentally. So, yeah. And that whole psyops thing is just, that's always kind of fascinated me how they use the sounds and the noise and everything like that to
Yeah.
kind of jack with people.
It kind of blew my mind when I heard it. So that was what the whole episode was kind of based around, really, because I heard that tape and was like, "That's cool." And then
Hmm.
I was like, "How can I make an episode out of this one tape?" Because I really want to do an episode on this because it's just fascinating. I found the whole thing just fascinating. So that was how that was where that episode kind of like originated from. Like the kind of the propagator of that episode was that tape.
It's like Moya with her over there. Oh no. I guess it is. My father was a groom beret.
So
Oh, yeah.
Latest Flower said, "What was your favorite episode you researched this year?" So I mean, that was like one of the big kind of topics is like basically what was everyone's favorite episode, because I'd really like to know, obviously, because A, it's interesting just to hear, but also B, like from a kind of perspective of going forward, like what I'm going to make. It's interesting to kind of know which episodes resonated with people. So I'm going to chuck you a link in the comments. That goes to the season, and if just in case no one remembers, yeah, I'd love to hear what everyone else's favorite episode was. But my favorite episode to research this year was definitely, I say definitely, the Lost City of Z, because I just
It was so
really enjoyed reading about the main guy.
he was a jerk.
He was a jerk, but he was a really complex character, and I really enjoyed reading about him. And at first, I
He
really
was still a
liked him.
jerk.
Um, like when I first started reading about him, I read a lot of like positive stuff about him, as you kind of tend to do with people who are dead, right? Is that they're, like a lot of it's kind of like focuses only on the starts that like the positives that they did, and a lot
Mhm.
of the stuff was like almost like he was this messiah, that was going into the rainforest and like treating everyone like perfectly well and all the rest of it, and so different to like the rubber companies that were around at the time. But then slowly, as I started digging into it and researching more and more, like I started
Yep.
uncovering more of like actually what he was at like really about, and how
Mhm.
he was less of a jerk than other people, but he was still a jerk. Like, he was a product of his time ultimately. And that was the way that they treated indigenous people.
Yeah.
And he treated the indigenous people really well, but that still was bad. um,
Yeah, it
and,
doesn't
and
mean
I
it was
found that,
it good, just less bad than everybody else.
yeah, exactly. Like really well back then is essentially still bad. But I found that interesting, and I found, and plus I just love, so like my favorite like fiction novel of all time is A Handful of Dust by
Mhm.
Evan Moore. And I mean, if you've ever read that, like the entire second half of the novel is basically the Lost City of Z. So I really enjoyed reading about like a real life version of like Tony Last going into the rainforest looking for his like imaginary city. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed, say, like researching like his background, and actually like uncovering how bonkers he was, because
He was
again, at
just
first a lot of his bonkers side wasn't really spoken about.
Mhm.
um and later it came out, like as I was kind of reading more into like his different, like his diaries and things like that, like you could see like all of this stuff coming out where he was actually completely bonkers. So that was really interesting. So that's probably was
So
my favorite one to research. Hattie,
so
go on.
your mom asked, or and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, my apologies. Who was the most horrible character in this season in your opinion? Uh,
Yeah.
Lotus said Percy Fawcett, and I'm like, "Oh, absolutely."
Yeah, so that's Percy Fawcett is the Lost City of Z, right?
Yeah.
Who who is my most horrible? I mean, Hattie, whilst I'm just having a browse up and I think, what was your favorite episode of the season?
The
Did you have one?
homunculus.
Oh, the homunculus. That was
I
funny.
loved I absolutely loved the homunculus. I think that goes down as one of, like, the DH classic episodes. I don't know why. It just there were just so many kind of quirky little weird things in it, and the fact that you can just the fact that you couldn't even read things with a straight face. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
like,
mean,
the cow and the flies and, you know.
I really enjoyed some of those like leaps in logic was hilarious, and I just, it was just cracking me up. But yeah, no, that was. I mean, in terms of bad people, you'd be hard pressed to beat the guy from Batavia's Graveyard, right? Um, I mean, he was pretty much a tyrant. He was, because actually looking down through the season, there wasn't like an abundance of terrible people this year. Um, there's obviously a fair, most people are pretty bad in Dark Histories, but there wasn't any like real, you know, um, Terry Hoffman or whatever. There wasn't
Oh,
any.
she was just yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was any up there on there, but I mean, but yeah, the guy, the tyrant of Batavia's Graveyard, was probably up there. And Gordon Cummins, the Blackout Ripper, is probably the least, one of the least savory people. But yeah, I would say probably, for me at least, the Batavia's Graveyard one was pretty much a prick. He was pretty much
Yeah.
one of my least favorite people.
Yeah, he was. No, you're
Um,
right.
the the moon one. So
That was
Chaos D
fun.
Main said about the moon one. That was probably my second favorite. Like that has to be up there as well as one of my favorites. That made me laugh a lot. That was really enjoyable to research that one because I mean mainly I say research on that one was pretty straightforward. It was like read the old stories. Um,
Well,
but
it's
yeah,
funny because that one was something that we talked about early last year.
it's been I've been talking about this one for like I've had this one on the radar for such a
Mhm.
long time.
That yeah,
Um,
that one's been
it,
there.
yeah, but yeah, just it took me a long time to get to it. Your mum said this season was one of the richest. The episode was filling, and a great sense of exploring the subject. Thanks very much. I do think
Yeah.
that over time I've got better at that, like sort of filling out the context and the historical context and the social context and things like that. And plus, I've allowed myself to do that a bit more because in the old days, like in the first couple of seasons, things like that, I was quite restrictive because I was like quite. I wanted to be restrictive on the time and stuff. Whereas now I've kind of like I've kind of accepted more that if an episode runs to an hour, 15 minutes long, that's okay. Like, I think most people are
Mhm.
okay with that,
Yeah.
as long as I'm not just babbling. Like so. As long, like, I think the thing that I'm struggling with now is sometimes we do a lot of repeat periods, and then I don't really need to give that backstory the second time. So then it's like trying to find like a different context to give that adds to the episode. I noticed it with the newspaper one a few times because like, do I really need to give like a full backstory about New York newspapers again?
Well,
Um,
I think what you need to remember too though is there's always going to be new listeners. Always. It's
yeah,
just I mean, it's just going to happen. And not everybody starts at the beginning and works their way through. Like, starts with episode 1 and, goes chronologically. So giving
yeah.
the backstory isn't, it might be old school for some of the listeners that have listened already to everything else, but for people that could be the first episode they've ever listened to of Dark Histories, they might
Mm.
need that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the hard thing. That's the like the kind of what you've got to balance is like actually people don't necessarily listen to it like you say like in chronological order. So sometimes you kind of need to do it anyway. So
Hmm.
then I try and like what I try and do then is like give a similar kind of context or background, but from like a different angle or something, just to add something a little bit different. But you know, um, you're bound to like end up with some repeats because just that's just like a product of the fact that some eras were just so rich for content for this sort of podcast, like the Victorian London and
Right.
New York in like the 19th century and stuff. So you're bound to retread the same eras like over and over again. If I mean the New York
Yeah.
press in the 19th century was just something else. It was just unbelievable.
It's just,
So
you know what? There's just too much fodder in there.
yeah.
It just offers way too much.
So I mean, Glenn says like the Moon and the Phantasm
Oh,
airships, my
yeah.
second and third, which are both the kind of New York 19th century newspapers or
Hmm.
whatever.
No, those were
Um,
fun.
but yeah, yeah, no, I like the Phantom airships. That was actually one of the harder episodes to research because I thought that the sort of newspaper record clippings and stuff were more varied than they were, and they actually weren't. And I ended up sort of going into it thinking it was going to be a much different episode than what came out in the end.
Hmm.
Like it was one of those episodes that I definitely had to like reshape halfway through and be like, shit, this isn't working. Like this, I've gone down a road here that sort of hits a dead end. I think it hits a dead end as far as Dark Histories is concerned, because for me, I'm not really willing to just like get too much into that realm of like speculation and bullshit. Like I want at least some level of reality. Like even if it's doesn't have to be real. Like even if it's just like a bonkers newspaper piece, like the moon hoax, I need it to be grounded in something real. I need to be able to, like I was saying with that story earlier, like that I found loads of stories of people living in like haunted houses in the Second World War, but I only really found one story that I could corroborate the information and find records of the house and the people living there. And that to me,
Mhm.
like I need to find that almost just to settle it with myself. I don't know why. I just feel a bit OCD about it. If I don't,
Well,
I don't really like just going like, oh, here's a thing. I don't have any
no,
evidence for that. I'm going to just throw it out there. I
well,
don't
I
really
think
like doing that.
no, I think that oops, sorry. I think that you're aware too, though, that one thing that a lot of listeners have expressed that they appreciate most about Dark Histories is that you do the research and make sure that you're not just spouting out a bunch of
That I
crap,
can back most
that
like
you can back your what you
yeah.
say you can back up, and that's one thing that a lot of people have commented on and expressed that, that's that's one thing they really, really appreciate is that when you say something, you know that you're gonna be able to trace it back, just like, the Hairy Hands of Dartmoor, which, wasn't this season, but,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
went so far deep into that you were kind of like dispelling all of those little myths, along the way, and
So I
you
really
found
enjoy
things, yeah,
like
that other people didn't, and that they don't make the effort. They just assume and accept the copy pasta that, is rampant across the
mm,
internet instead of actually doing the homework.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, see
And
the research, yeah. I think
I
that's
I hear
it.
that like over and over again from like emails is people saying
Yeah.
like, I really and the reviews like, on spot like iTunes
Mhm.
and that they all kind of saying like they appreciate that side of it. So yeah, which is good because I enjoy doing that. So like I say, it almost feels it just things I just don't like when I'm so when I'm writing, if I come across something and I'm like, oh okay, I need to find out that person's name or that person's birthday. If I can't find it, I like Hallie knows like I will literally spend like a full day just looking for someone's birthday that I might not even mention
Yes.
in the episode. Or
Yes, he will.
excuse me, if I mention it, it's literally like a throwaway, like, oh, this guy was born in 1969 or 1769 or whatever. And that's it. But that might have taken me a full day to find. But I won't just throw that out there. I found that. Like I found his, date, I found records of his birth or whatever. Like uh, and I think like it just doesn't sit with me to do it any other way. And I think that's just that weird kind of like completionist, like collector that I've got, like that collector mentality of like gotta like
I
get
think
all
it's
the facts.
credibility too, though. I think it's credibility too, though, and I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are other podcasts out there that have used dark histories as a resource and, given
Yeah,
due credit at the same time. Um,
the dollop do several times,
yeah, they
which
give
is
credit now.
yeah, they give credit now. Took them long
Yeah,
enough, but
oh, yeah, I had fun with
yeah.
that one. But um, but, yeah, I think, the fact that they use dark histories as a reference, I think that it's pretty well known, there's a lot of credibility to if you're not gonna just throw a bunch of crap out there, you've got all the evidence and everything.
I mean, I chuck a bit of crap every now and then, like in the post. So almost like I kind of keep the crap to like the post episode chat area where I feel I'm a bit freer there to kind of just be like, hey, I found this. And then I can
Mhm.
also explain that I found this, but maybe I didn't really find anything to back that up, but still I enjoy it. Or, like then, but
Oh, thanks, Scored. Did you see that? Scored
uh,
said that let's see.
I'm a new listener.
Yeah. Been listening for about 2 to 3 weeks. Love the context you add to each episode. Yeah, see?
Thank you. Yeah. So that's a really
That's
like,
it.
a comment that, I hear that's kind of trying what I focus on because you get a lot of that. But yeah, the interview was awesome. Thank you very much. Do you know what? I shit my pants when I did that because I was fully intimidated. I don't know if you could tell,
Oh,
but
I mean, I could tell, but I just know.
I'd never really done any interviews and stuff before. But I really wanted to do it, and I'd reached out to um, Professor Abbott before, and I knew that he was probably up for it. So I just thought, why not give it a go? But oh man, that was scary. I was yeah. I think it went okay, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And but I was crapping myself.
No, I
Luckily,
think
he's an
it's me.
absolutely one of the
He's a
nicest.
gem.
yeah, he's one of the nicest, like potentially stuffy academics you've ever seen. You know, he's not stuffy at all. He's really down to earth, and he made me feel like really relaxed right from the start. He was just sort of like really casual and laid back. I mean, he's like this like professor, and he looks just as you'd imagine a professor looks. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of him, but he looks just like a professor. And we did the interview, and he was wearing like a hoodie. And I was just like, oh, that's so much. Like he was just sitting at his kitchen table wearing a hoodie, and I was just like, that's so
Yeah.
much. Like I feel so much better straight away. But yeah, no, he was a really nice guy. And
Yeah,
I
makes you
was really
feel a little
glad to
bit
do it.
better. He's not sitting there in a tweed jacket with a tie on and, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nothing so
No, for sure.
formal. But I really enjoyed doing that interview, and I say I hope people enjoyed it. I'm not sure. I felt like at the end, I'm not sure. It very quickly when I was doing that interview, I discovered that he has moved away from the mystery side of it, and I don't think he really cares about any of that anymore. So he used to be really into the code and stuff like that, and he used to set it a lot for his class and stuff. But I found out very quickly that he's moved away from that side of things, and so that really kind of like I was like shit, because that's all my questions for you. So I very quickly realized like that all of my questions were not really what he was interested in talking about anymore, and he was much more interested in
The
the
DNA.
DNA side of it, which was interesting as well. And I did have some questions about that, but I had I'd had so many questions about what you thought about this thing or that thing, and he just didn't really want to talk about that, I don't
I
think.
know.
But he was really good about it, and he was.
No.
I think he would
Yeah.
have been open. I think he still would have talked about it if I'd have pushed him on it. But I just got that feeling that it wasn't where he wanted to go with it.
Right, and I think too, though, that he probably appreciated the fact that you did kind of let him expound upon the things that were important to him,
Yeah, yeah,
because everyone else really pushes their own agenda. And I can only imagine that someone who's interviewed multiple times about the same subject gets tired of being asked the same things over and over and not given the opportunity to talk about things that are important to them. So I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
think he really appreciated the fact that you did let him kind of expound upon that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, on that note, it was quite. I was quite surprised how like willing he was to kind of retread the story again, because I was like, actually, we don't really need to, because the listeners know the story quite well, so we don't need to kind of you know like they're not ignorant of the facts. Like most of these people probably know the story better than me at this point, because I did that episode a long time ago, so and I've not really read about it since. So I was like, actually the listeners are okay with it, but he still like several times was like, oh, this part of the story, and then he would go back and explain like all of this part of the story, and I was like, wow, man, like like you must have had to do this so many times, and yet it doesn't seem to. He was say just a really nice guy who was really really willing and forgiving of my amateurish interview techniques. But yeah, no, it
No,
was
I
cool.
don't think it was that. I think at the same time too, him being allowed to do that allows him to relay the true story, like what it really, and just kind of, set aside all of the crap that, you may or may not have read, or, that might be out there floating around. I think it gives him the opportunity to really put it out there. This is how it happened. This is, and
Yeah,
so just letting him set that up and set it in stone and say, here it is. This is how it really happened.
it was
This
quite
is it.
funny when I sort of asked him a few questions at the end and stuff, and I asked him some questions that were obviously like stuff that I knew was like just speculation and unfounded speculation, and a lot of that. And I wondered, I kind of I don't just thought I'd put it out to see what his opinion of it was, and he just slammed it down like instantly. He was just like, nope, like nope, that's rubbish. Not even gonna entertain that. Not even gonna give it the time of day. I was like,
I
okay,
know.
so we're not doing speculation then. Okay. um,
No, I was laughing so hard.
I think that was it one of the Discord questions, wasn't it, about the guy in the newspaper and
Yeah,
stuff.
it
And I'd
was.
read it up because so I thought I better read it up so I know what I'm asking him. And there was a story behind it, but obviously he just didn't give it any credibility, and he just was just like slammed it down instantly and was just like, nope.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I was just like, "Oh, uh-oh, that didn't go over well." So he's not one for,
Yeah.
conspiracy theories. That's okay.
But it was, yeah, it was, I really enjoyed that interview. It was good. And actually, I'm really interested to know the feedback on that, because I'd like to know if people want more of that, because I've had guests before and I got fairly negative,
Oh,
not
we
not
got
negative
slammed on it.
feedback.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
got
got I got I've had people sort of be like, you're a solo show. I don't want to hear any other voices in a way. Like I've had people sort of email me to
yeah.
that, more or
Yeah.
less a little bit nicer than that, but more or less that's that saying is I don't listen to your podcast for guests. Um,
Right. But I think the other thing too, and it's like I think it might have been Lotus Flow or Morelli that said earlier, you're never going to make everybody happy. I mean,
no,
flat out.
no,
Just
no.
like there were people that on Patreon just went over the top about how much they disliked the homunculus episode and how offensive they found it. And it was like, dude, that's science. I mean, or I shouldn't say science, but that's what they thought as science back then. And what
Yeah.
you were presenting were facts that you could read in a history book. It's not like you were making crap up. Um, but
I wish it was. Some of
yeah,
those books I was reading for that episode. Wow.
yeah. But you're never going to make anyone happy. And I think the fact of the matter is that it's okay to change things up every once in a while.
Yeah, I think as long as I'm not like sort of like completely changing the format, I think it's, to be honest, it's just fun for me to just like sort of like have a guest every now and then, and have an interview. But uh, okay, there's a name. Um, Terrikson. I can do that bit. Ilmenhenru. Ilmenen
Oh, I can't say that.
Ilmenaru, Terrikson.
Mandarin.
Interviewing is a skill hard one. It definitely is, and like that's a it's a skill that if I do have guests, I'm gonna have to learn that kind of on the job. But I'm up for it, every now and then having guests. If and say I would, so if people enjoyed it, I would certainly be more willing to do that every now and then. And the thing is, if I get a guest like that, like it's only ever going to be like a bonus episode anyway, or
Mhm.
like an add-on to the end. So I'm not
Right.
ever going to like. I mean, so 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 yeah, it's not like it's taken away from the regular episode, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely have a couple of guests next season like lined up if I want to do them. One of the Screaming Skulls is definitely, I've got someone who owns a Screaming Skull lined up for an interview, which could be quite interesting. Um, so yeah, like I've got a couple of guests lined up, like potentially for next season already.
I think the other thing people need to remember too is that doing something a little bit different gives you a break and kind of pushes a little bit of a reset button and allows you that kind of, you know, opportunity to break away for a second. And then when you get back in harder, deeper, with more of a passion for it
Mm,
than before. It's not a bad thing. Everyone needs a kind of a break every
yeah,
once in a while. And that's kind of what that does for you sometimes.
I think ultimately as well is like this is going to sound quite bad, I suppose, in a way, but like I make the episodes because it's what I want to do. Like I just do what I think is fun, and if I don't think it's fun, I'm not going to make an episode on it. And if I do, then I am, and I think that's reflects in the content. Because if I didn't enjoy every single episode that I put out, then it wouldn't be very, like the episode wouldn't be very good because I probably wouldn't give as much effort into it. So like like if I want to do an interview, to be honest, I'm probably just going to do one because it's
It's your
something
podcast.
different. Like, and
That's
I'm
the bottom
and
line.
basically all of the stories that I do are just because I want to do them. Like, if I discover and I'm like, that's interesting, I want to read about that. And if I'm going to read about it, I may as well also write about it. So like, it kind of they work hand in hand, like that. Like that's how it works. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
probably I'll even if people turn around and said you shouldn't do interviews anymore, I would probably still do them every now and then. And say it's only going to be like once or twice a season anyway.
Yeah, it's not like it's a it's gonna be 1 out of every 2 episodes each month. That's
To be honest, I just
literally
couldn't do it. I'm not that much. It's just,
no, it's literally you get too nervous too. Um,
yeah.
you get too wound up when it comes time for an interview.
Oh
But I
man,
think
that
the
Derek
thing
Abbott one for like 2 weeks before it, I was like a
oh
ball of
my gosh.
anxiety. I was just like, oh god, Derek Abbott. Oh god, like it's gonna happen soon. Oh,
Yeah, no, I don't think the listeners can really appreciate, like, the neurosis that envelops you when it comes time for an
I'm fully
interview.
neurotic, so yeah, I am like a walking ball of anxiety. Yeah.
It's the 2 a.m. texts. "Maybe I shouldn't do this." I'm like, "Ben, you're fine." "I don't think I have enough questions, Ben, you're okay. It'll
Just
be
the
alright."
overwhelming self-doubt at 2
Mhm.
a.m. Like, oh, everything's gonna get, yeah, everything's
Yeah,
gonna go bad. The world's against me.
yeah. Oh my god, too funny.
Yeah,
No, way too funny.
but
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. But no, interviews are not gonna take over the Dark Histories feed, they're just gonna pop in every once in a while, that's all.
yeah, I think so. But yeah, I'm glad to say like mostly the feedback for that was fairly positive. So I got one. I get one or two dissenters for just about every episode. So
Oh, yeah.
so it's to be expected, to be honest. So it doesn't matter what the content is. It seems that you're going to offend someone with one episode every now and again, especially with dark issues. You know, it's the nature of the topic most of the time. I never take it personally or anything. It's just you just know, like, if I'm talking about these kind of stories, it's probably gonna upset one or two people in the world at some
Oh,
point.
yeah.
So yeah, it's what it is.
Well, and I
Try
mean, it's
try to be as sensitive as I can, but
yeah, it's just like that one that one interview on Apple Podcasts that said something to it was a 1 star, it said something to the effect of how they didn't understand how someone could sit there and listen to somebody talk about history for an hour, and I was like, "It's called Dark Histories? Like history? That's
and
what you do?"
my favorite review this year was definitely the one that said I'm a woman hater.
Oh! What was up with that?
I don't know, because as far as I can see, maybe I'm blind to it, but as far as I can see, I've always been quite positive towards gender in my like episodes, like like.
Well, and
But
what was funny is and I'm sure other people don't pay attention, but she went back and adjusted
I
the
I
the
I think,
review. No,
honestly
she went
speaking,
back
I
and
think
adjusted
she,
it and popped it
yeah.
up to 5 and then went back and adjusted it again, didn't change the comment that time and took it back down to 1. I was like, "Oy vey."
It's weird. I don't know what episode they listened to and decided on that, but to be honest, it was a bit like, oh, I hope you really don't think that, because that's a bit worrying, especially to the fact that I don't think that is even more worrying, because obviously, if you're not aware, that's where the problem is, right? If you're doing something without being aware, but I genuinely think that that comment was wrong. So I don't know, like, and everyone seems to sort of back me up with that. So hopefully, yeah. But that was a funny review anyway. But is it probably one of my other favorite episodes this season was to in terms of the historical context and stuff, was the Letitia Thoreau affair, the
Mhm.
Paris one. That was a good one. That was hard to research. There was a lot of history, like a lot of like political history going on there. That was a bit full on, that one. I think that's about as heavy as Dark Issues is ever gonna get. Do you know what I mean? That one was a bit like,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, it and that was interesting though. I mean, that one was different, like
yeah,
historically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was definitely like the most political Dark Issues it's got, really. Because I mean, I tend to try and sort of steer away from that sort of stuff a little bit, but ultimately, if you're talking about history, like history, you kind of politics, that it goes hand in hand, really. But that was the most like overtly political one that I'd done, I thought. But it was really interesting. And my French is great.
Ooh,
Well, that's
high school
something,
French
because
paid off.
yeah, because I thought my French was absolutely terrible. Um, Uh, yeah, I haven't done anything with French since I was high school. So
Yeah, because that's
Pritch Mitch, bonjour. Quite. That's
much too funny.
so my Japanese, I'm more confident in that. Yeah, slightly more confident there. But
You still haven't mastered Icelandic or whatever it was, have you?
I haven't even Icelandic is a ridiculous language. I don't know where I got that idea from. I'm
I
gonna
don't
learn. I'm gonna try and learn Icelandic. About 2 weeks later, no, I'm
know.
not.
Yeah, no. Sometimes he goes off on these little tangents like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do this," and then it just, like, never comes up again.
Any regrets from this season? It's an interesting
Hmm,
question. I don't think so. I don't think to be honest, I don't think I've really ever had any like big regrets
no. I think there was only
since
one, and that was
Adam the
mhm,
Thames Torso one. And I think that's really the only one. Like, I don't think I've done any this season that I've really looked back on and been like, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I'd done it in a different way. I suppose um, there was a couple of episodes this season that I feel like I didn't maybe. So the supernatural in war. When I look back at that, I feel like I could have maybe done a better job of that. Um, I'd, so I guess there's that there, but that's probably about it. Um,
ooh, good question, Velmet.
Yeah, I think probably this year that I think I'm mostly happy with this season. So the biggest one is probably the Supernatural in War, and I regret. I feel like I could have done a better job with that. If I don't know what happened. I just feel like when I look back at it, it just didn't like it didn't. I didn't feel as good about that because generally speaking, like I say, like I put an episode out, and when it's done, I feel quite good about it. Like it is up to a certain like it fulfills me to a certain extent or whatever. Like it
Mhm.
meets my expectations or criteria or whatever. But that one, I feel like maybe was a bit slapdash for that one.
Well,
But I
I
wasn't. I
think
mean, I didn't cheap out. I didn't cut corners, or it took me just as long as every other episode. It just didn't flow or come together at the end. Maybe like I wanted. Go on. Sorry, Hallie. I'm talking over
I
you. Go on.
no, I was just gonna say, was it Velmet? Velma asked what was the most grueling episode to research, but somebody asked what was regrettable about the torso murders with Adam. I think it was the fact that it was the first episode of a season, and so it kind of kicked it off on a little bit of a bummer, I guess,
Yeah.
kind of a bleak note, so to speak. But I don't think that I just really don't think it was as bad as you think it was.
I think in retrospect, if you come back to it now, I think you're all right. But
No, really, because I've
for the
listened to it a couple
time,
times. Yeah, no, I
so
think it
what
was
I
fine.
regret about it is that um, it was the first episode of the season, and it was like a week after Christmas, and I was kind of like in a good headspace, and everything was fine. And then I did that, and I was just like, and like Valmet's question, what was the most grueling episode to research? It was just such a grueling episode to research, in a time of where I really didn't need that. Like I really needed an episode to be like, hey, this is season one, or this is episode one, and we're gonna go from here. And I don't mind doing the dark, dirty, getting in the gutter sort of episodes, but maybe not for like the first episode of the season when I'm
Well,
kind of
and
I, I
you have
and
to
I
remember it was season 2.
yeah, and I think it's a lot as well. Like dealing with kids is difficult.
Mhm,
Um,
absolutely.
because you've got to be sensitive with that, and listeners don't take always particularly well to it. Um, Whenever you do an episode that's got children involved, I always know I'm going to get emails from people telling me I'm a bad person. Um, so that's not really the best way to start a season off. So when I say regrets, like I think if you go back and listen to it now, like if you just listen to, if you're a newcomer to Dark Histories and you listen to it out of the context, I feel like probably it's fine. But it's just at the time I regret doing it at the time because it was just a bit grueling. Um, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, most grueling episode of this season to research. I don't know. Probably Batavia's graveyard. Um, in terms of like, because I don't think this season was really too bad. Like in terms of like gore or darkness or kind of like nothing too like too down. So most stuff was okay, but Batavia's graveyard was probably the worst one. But I say I think mostly this season was quite up for dark histories in a lot of ways. Like a lot of the stories were
Yeah,
quite. I mean, to be honest, that's been a conscious decision because I feel like at the moment people are looking to escape and they kind of want that a bit more than like, oh hey, here's another story of murder and disgust.
right.
And I mean, obviously, dark histories is dark history, so there's always going to be a little bit of that. But I feel like you can balance it, you know. So like these last two seasons, I've tried to balance it a little bit better with like the real dark stuff and the stuff that's a little bit easier, like you know the P.T. Barnum and things like that. You know, like it's still quite dark history in a way, but it's not like death, murder, ah, like genocide or anything like that. So yeah, I've tried to balance it a bit. So yeah, this season was kind of all right. So probably Batavia's graveyard was probably the worst though. Uh, I mean, the homunculus episode was pretty. If it wasn't so funny, it would have been pretty gritty. Because I mean, some of the books I was reading for that were mind blowing. But luckily, they were so
Some
bonkers, and it was so old that
some
it.
of those things just were too much. It was just too funny.
Yeah,
I mean, just how they
yeah,
made the quote unquote connection from one thing to another. It's, well, just it's just funny how the human brain works sometimes,
yeah.
for sure. Oh my gosh. No, that is too much.
Churchill
That
tunnel
is too
collapse. Not sure I know about that. I shall have to look that up. But yeah, I mean, Hallie,
Yes.
anything? Borley Rectory was another good
Oh,
one I
that was
enjoyed
fun.
this season,
You
and that was
know,
another one that was quite
it's
difficult.
it's always fun when it involves people like the Warrens or Harry Price or,
Price, yeah,
you know,
controversial figures. Uh, I'm a little bit more forgiving with Price than I am the Warrens, maybe, but
I don't know.
only a little bit.
After that whole Rosalie seance thing with Price.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty weird. Uh,
Mm-mm.
I tell you probably the thing with the Borley Rectory that I found most interesting was when I found that the guy's death certificate, and I couldn't believe no one has really commented on how he died of syphilis because that was I thought quite a big deal,
Oh, yeah.
but no one has really commented on that.
No.
And you know his
But
death certificate wasn't difficult to find. You know, it took me like less than a couple of hours. Um, so people must have found it in the past.
yeah. But I mean, syphilis, syphilis does a number on the brain. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it I mean, it goes without saying. It,
I thought it was really
I think,
important, you know, for a
yeah,
guy that's telling ghost stories, it's pretty
yeah.
important to know that he died of that because he would have
No,
degraded, like his mental abilities and
absolutely. And
faculties would have degraded over time, like to
yeah,
quite an extreme amount.
yeah, I think that
Mm.
was overlooked, or whether it was intentional or not. I think it was just sort of glossed over, and it shouldn't have been,
Mm. Fun
because I think,
episode though. That was a
yeah.
difficult one. So like,
Yes, Glenn, they were.
what was the
Sorry.
most difficult episode to put together?
Mm.
Opportunistic frauds. Yes, they are. I despise them. So like that sort
Oh,
of goes hand in hand with that, sort of with the Borley Rectory. That was quite a difficult one to put together but not because it was difficult, because obviously there's a abundance of like material for the Borley Rectory, so it's quite easy to sort of. It's difficult in the first sense. You've got to filter like the good from the like the stuff that's the worthy sources from the not worthy sources, but it was quite quite difficult to put together in the sense that you pick in your angle, because I knew like the Borley Rectory is a touchy one, you know, like it's one of those episodes that people are like near and dear to some people. So you've got to be like, oh, you know, what angle am I going to come? Because I quite knew from the start that I was going to come at Borley from a quite a skeptical, critical angle. So it's like that it was quite difficult from that perspective, but not really difficult to put together otherwise in terms of like actual like legwork. The most difficult one in terms of legwork
Mm-hmm.
was probably Clarita Villanueva, actually, because a lot
Yeah.
of that was like was it in
Philippine, wasn't like a lot of Philippine documents and stuff like that.
yeah, and like so like luckily like quite a lot of it was English anyway, but not all of it, and then and not what I wanted. And so like I do it like other episodes in French or in like German or whatever. And generally speaking, either I can speak the language or I know someone that can help me to
Mm-hmm.
translate that language, so that I can use original sources and stuff. But with that, it was like I don't know how to search like for the like you know I don't even know search terms for that. So that was quite difficult to put together. But again, like one of my more favorite episodes from the season when it was finished. I really enjoyed that one.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely one of the more difficult to put together.
No, and it watching the feedback come through on that one was really interesting. The thoughts and the theories that people had behind it.
Yeah. Well, it was quite one of the more open ones, really, wasn't it? Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty bonkers. I mean, pretty
Yeah,
some pretty out there claims from that.
yeah. I mean, people came back with everything from complete psychosis, whether it be due to her incarceration or to just it being completely made up. I mean, it was really interesting to see the feedback that, came back from it and the different theories and thoughts that were put out there.
Yeah,
So,
I tell
okay,
you
there you
what.
go.
Oh, I just read a comment and it's thrown me because help with Swedish and Arabic. Thank you very much. That's always good to have like
Mhm.
people that can help with like things like that. Because yeah, I'm obviously limited to English and Japanese, and that's about it. And you know, I can kind of scrape through French if I with a help from Google. But
Google's getting better.
yeah,
Their
it is.
translate's getting a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I mean, I have done episodes like fully relying on Google Translate before, but it helps if you kind of know the second like the language a little bit, and then you know like I know why that's translated that like that or whatever, and so you can kind of understand it a bit better. It's not such a good idea to just chuck stuff in when you have no idea of the other language, because that's when you just relying too much on Google computers, and I'm not sure that's a not really I don't that doesn't sit too well with me. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, I think God, I can't believe we've already been an hour. Here we
have
are
we?
always yeah, we're always thinking, "Oh, well, if we can make it an hour, that'll be great."
We
We
can have
always
anything to
spread it.
talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, one oh, go for it. Your mom, what's your last question? I mean, it doesn't have to be the last question.
Lotus flower. There was a photo of Bryce's book on the cloak on the back of the shed, back of the door that appeared and disappeared. So it must be true. Yeah, definitely. Uh,
It's so funny.
what
That
should
is
we
too
look
funny.
forward to for the next season? Um,
I let me just put this out there right now because a lot of people um and we appreciate it, don't get me wrong. A lot of people like to make like quote unquote either requests or suggestions. And I think that the thing to remember and the thing to understand is that from episode to episode, Ben does not know what he's going to cover.
yeah, I was going to
Um,
say that.
and let me just say this because it's really important to understand that whichever way the wind is blowing, it depends on what he's going to cover. So I always know when I get a phone call on a Wednesday night, that means that he's done 3/4 of the research and probably a quarter of the writing for an episode and has changed his mind because he's gonna do something different. So,
Yeah, that's
tell me I'm
happened. Like,
lying.
but no,
Tell me I'm wrong.
as everything that I was going to say was that, yeah,
So, while we really appreciate the thoughts and suggestions, it's just not something his brain wraps around the right way. It's kind of like a little kid, they see something shiny and all of a sudden they're going to go, that direction. But if something else is bigger and shinier, whoop, there they go. And that's kind of how Ben chooses what he's going to cover. I
yeah.
like that.
Sometimes I'll just start an episode and I'll be like,
Yes.
"This is what I'm going to do this week," and then I'll just not like feel like actually, I'm so
Yes.
interested in that this week. I'm just going to do something else now.
Yeah.
With like
Yes.
2 days left before the
Yeah.
deadline, and
Yeah. Elementary.
um,
Yes. A leaf on the wind. That is Ben.
but
Whichever way the wind takes him, that's where the episode's going to go. And
yeah,
the
but I
wind
mean,
changes.
I do have some plans, but I wouldn't hold your breath, basically.
That's why we don't say, "Hey, suggest it. We'll cover it." Because
Yeah, because like I mean, sometimes I've covered suggestions that I got like 4 years ago, and probably the person who suggested it doesn't listen to the podcast anymore, and like it's
well, and
um
not just
it's
that,
just taken me 4 years to get around to it.
not just that, but the fact of the matter is that you don't even know someone suggested it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do tend to sort of like flip flop a little bit. Into like basically making the podcast is chaos. Uh, So yeah, but I do have some. I do have like the one that I definitely know will be next season is a big episode on the Yeti. Uh, but
I'm so
it's
excited.
not what you
I
think.
know.
It's not going to be like this is
No,
the
it's
Yeti. It's
no.
about a particular story that is really interesting.
Yes, but I am still thoroughly excited.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the like one that's set in stone for early days. Next season. Um, I
I
can pretty
can't
much
wait.
guarantee that. Because
Excited.
I'm really excited to do that episode, so I know that it's going to be soon. So yeah, like I can pretty much guarantee that that one's coming out. Uh, um, it's yeah, that's definitely going to be that. Yeah, that will be one of the earlier episodes. Is it more crimey or more ghosty? I try and like balance it. I have this kind of like I just sort of go with what I feel, but I basically just tend to be like, oh, we've done like something that's a bit, we've done a couple of episodes that are crimey. Let's maybe do something that's a bit kind of cryptid or ghosty,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just I try and balance it a little bit and sort of keep
Yeah,
things balanced in that respect. I don't know how well that works, but I try and keep it as balanced as possible.
well, no, it's just like,
Um,
every once in a while, it's like, "Haven't covered a cult in a while,"
Yeah,
that type
exactly.
of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And
It's
it's just
nothing sort of again,
yeah,
nothing set in stone, but I try and balance it a bit.
no, for sure.
Spoiler alert, Bigfoot's really an alien.
Hey, there could be something to that.
But
It
yeah,
could
no, so that's pretty much the only thing I can um yeah, that's pretty much like what I can guarantee is
Oh!
there's gonna be
Oh
a
my
Yeti.
goodness. Well, I thank you, Karen. Sam, did you see what they said?
I've never been a podcast person. Yeah, yeah, which is really cool. It's really good to
That is
know that
amazing.
it appeals to you if you're not a podcaster. Yeah, like that's really cool. Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, there was another comment that I saw.
Fun,
I can't remember.
You don't remember. Probably a
Nah,
while back.
it's yeah. I'm
It's
probably
all good.
lost it, but
It's fine.
I will. Oh no, that was it. Because I was like, nice segue. When is the campfire episode? Yeah,
Oh,
Morelli. So the campfire episode, if you're interested in being on that, you really want to get in like soon. I think I said
Like
the deadline was the
like
20th,
in
which is
2
like
days?
2 days. It's we can swing on that a little bit because I'll probably put the episode out on the 24th because I tend to put the episode out on the 24th, so I won't be probably making it until the 23rd. So 20th if you can, but if you come in on the 22nd, it'll probably be included.
Yeah, because then
But then
what
I can't
happens?
guarantee
Yeah.
it. Basically, if I can guarantee that it will be included if it comes up to the 20th, but anything after that, it's going to be, it depends if I've made it or not. But even if I've made it, I'll try and get it. I'll try and amend it to the end or whatever. Because thing is with that is anyone that writes in, I feel like, they've gone to the effort to write in, and I should go to the effort to, treat it with respect. So I will try and squeeze it in no matter what time it comes in. But yeah, 20th would be best. But yeah, so those episodes will be the 24th at the very least, and I'm not sure about the runtime yet. If there's going to be two, then there'll be another one that'll probably release on like the 27th or the 28th. Like that kind of period between Christmas and New Year, but that would be less. I don't know because that'll just depend on what time, like when I'm seeing family and things like that. Just to hit the button that says upload basically and things like that. But yeah, there'll definitely be the first one will definitely be on the 24th, and that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Those are his. Just so you guys know, the Christmas campfire episodes are his favorite for some reason. I think it's because he doesn't have to do the work; he can just read the
It
script.
is. It's because everyone else does the legwork, and all I've got to do is press record. Um, but no, but also I just love that level of interaction. Like I love like hearing everyone else's stories and things like that. It's just really fun.
Mhm.
And I feel really grateful, like because so many of those stories that people have sent me, they send in the emails like, "Oh, please don't give my name," and I've never told anyone else this, or like this is the
They're
first
really
time I've.
personal.
Yeah, it's really personal. Like it's a really easy thing to come out and say, "Oh, send me your creepy ghost stories or whatever." But actually, for some people, that's a really personal thing you're asking. So I feel like really grateful that people do it, and it's really just a really nice feeling. I just love making the episodes because it just makes me feel really nice to see like all those stories from people that say sometimes, you know, quite, it's not so. I mean, for some people, sure, they just send me like copy pastas or whatever, like, and that's fine. But other people send me stuff that it's
We
been
can
like.
usually weed those out pretty quick.
Yeah, but other people like they send stuff that's really personal and
Yeah.
like real, really interesting,
Mhm.
and I feel like wow, like it makes me feel really nice that people trust me with their story, I guess.
Yeah, that they're
So
comfortable
it's,
enough.
yeah, and yeah, exactly that they're comfortable enough to email me those things. So yeah, no, that's definitely like why it's my favorite episode. But yeah, that's gonna be coming up. 24th is when it'll be out. Yeah, so it's a bit tricky to make this year because people have been emailing me their Christmas campfire stories since like April of last year, so
Yeah,
or
I know,
April of this year. So I've
which
got
kind
like
of
quite a
sucks.
backlog to go through, but that's fine. I was kind of fortunately I was aware enough to tag each email as they came in so that I could find them later. Easy enough.
To answer your question, your mom, Mr. Cutmore is now 40 years old.
Yeah, it was my birthday
So
last
he's
week.
a real live adult now.
I'm a real adult.
I'm
40.
trying to teach him how to use a calendar, but it's a struggle.
Yeah. An organizer, any sort of like organizational tool, please.
That's
Uh,
okay.
yeah. No, I was 40 last week. It was that was a thing. All my family, well, my brother-in-law had COVID, so I didn't see anyone. I sat at
That is
home
that's
with
true.
my dog, but that was fine.
Ah, yes, Captain Bigglesworth.
Yes. So yeah, that was my 40th birthday, but is what it is. And for my birthday, I got a Chudley Cannons t-shirt because I'm a real adult. So that was nice. I thought you might be in your late 20s, early 30s. Thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, it's a British thing. I don't know. It
I think
happens.
one of my friends sent me a message saying, "Happy 40th. You don't look a day over 16." And I was like, "Yeah, tell me about it."
Oh my God, I know. Yeah. So speaking of the whole segue and people sending you things, in January for a December episode, um,
Yeah,
for it's kind of a strange segue, but Ben, for those of you who listen to just episodes on the regular feed, Dark Histories always had like a sponsor by Audible type of a thing. Um, and just after talking and just kind of going through some stuff, we, your mom, you know what? No, there isn't a PO box. That's a long story,
no, but
but
it's very kind. Your thoughts are,
yeah,
it's
it
very nice of you to
completely
ask. But don't worry
appreciated.
about it.
Um, but rather than continue with the Audible sponsorship, we've talked about it and we've kind of decided that if you are a listener who has like your own business or like an Etsy store or something like that that you do and you think that maybe you would be interested in having Ben read a spot for your business or what have you during the episode, reach out to us. What we would really rather do than have something like Audible as a sponsor, it's not even a sponsorship. It's more of just filling in a little blank and saying, you know what, this is a listener of Dark Histories, and we really just want to support the people that are listening. So if you are a listener and you have that type of a thing, then email me because Ben does this thing where he'll tag an email and then it just gets lost.
Yeah. See, I
It
say I
just
tag
goes
all the
away.
emails. It doesn't help.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But you can either do the social at Dark Histories or you can do Hallie at darkhistories.com. Either one works. That way I can touch base with you. We can come up with a copy and we can have Ben read that for an episode. And then I can always be sure to let you know what episode that's going to drop on and what the date is and stuff like that. That way you know when to expect it. But we really want to be able to give back to the people that have been listening and that have supported for so long. So we
Yeah,
think
like
this,
I'm
yeah,
just so done with adverts. I mean, I never
yeah,
enjoyed the adverts. I mean, I think you can probably see that they're pretty low effort. Like I recorded an Audible advert about 2 years ago, and I just played the same because I just can't be bothered to be like the hard sell and be like, you should sign up to Audible, buy a mattress or whatever. I'm
yeah,
not saying I'm never gonna like but I just don't enjoy doing them, and I'm just so done with them at this point. For the return that they give me is like so
yeah,
minimal. I would much rather just do this and just do adverts for people that I give a shit about. Do you know what I mean? Like
mhm,
and like Dark Histories is I mean it's no secret that I used to be a hairdresser, um, and then COVID came and I didn't have a job, but I've been able to live off Dark Histories. Dark Histories has supported me from like ad revenue and Patreon money and things like that. So, like I just want to give back, like, as like
yeah,
to the community that's supported me like for the last 2 years. And to be able to, I think, offer something of value, which is like the advertising space. If you want to reach out, say obviously this is something I'm going to talk to like on a wider thing and get more sort of people on board. But I would like to get as
mhm,
many people. If you've got something you want to advertise on Dark Histories, I've got a platform that I can advertise it on that reaches quite a wide audience.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
we're not going to guarantee that, you're going to get $1 million in sales, but,
yeah, yeah.
but
If it's relevant, even better. But it doesn't have to be.
no,
Because the thing is Dark History's listenership is so diverse anyway that most, so yeah, I'd just really like to give back a bit more
oh,
and say an
oh,
adverts are a
no,
good place
Glenn,
for me to do that, I think.
no, Glenn, don't
Please
worry.
don't do the manscaping for
No,
yeah, no,
no,
yeah, yeah. So
no,
so that's precisely what I mean though, is like I've managed to be able to turn down so like Dark Issues at this point is big enough to have been approached by like a few of the bigger networks, and
Mhm.
I've been able to just turn around and say, do one, because my Patreon supports the podcast and I can maintain my independence because of that, which means I don't have to do manscaping adverts. And like I say, I'm not saying it will never happen, you know, maybe one day, but they'd have to offer me much better than what they have been. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Um, so yeah, you know, and anyway, getting back to it, because of
Yeah.
that, I would
And
like
it
to be able
doesn't
to do adverts for everyone else.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be like UK or US based. It doesn't. So, if you're in a different country, that's fine. We just want to make sure that we're supporting the listeners that have supported Dark Histories for so long. So,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
yeah. So definitely reach out. You can either reach me through our Discord or you can email me directly, like I said, Hallie@darkhistories.com or through the social at darkhistories.com. Um, or you can send a message on Facebook and I'll get it there or on Twitter or anything like that. So, yeah, reach out and I'll definitely get back to you and we can work on something if that's of interest to you. We can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing we wanted to know is if any of you out there are an artist, like for like not well, like a digital artist or even typical art. Um, if you might have an idea or something that you think that you would like to see on a piece of merch in the Dark Histories store, we're really going to make an effort this next year to kind of build on that and keep it fresh and keep artwork rotating. Um, we aren't able to like give you any commission on the art, but definitely you will always receive credit for anything that you see or submit.
Always, I'm
Um,
willing to try and compensate the best way we can, like come to an
yeah,
arrangement, because I don't like doing that whole like, oh, you work for me for free
yeah,
because
no,
you know, like
no,
art's free. Do you know? Like it's not. I know it's not, and
yeah,
I
no,
always like
it
to try
takes
and
time.
compensate the artists
Yeah,
as you know, make it mutually agreeable, if you
yeah,
like.
for
You know,
sure. But if you have ideas or if you have something that you think that you would be able to create and would look good on a piece of merch or something like that, just again, let me know. Get in touch with me. I know that we've got a lot of artists out there that are absolutely amazing. I mean, just really incredible. So, if there's something that you think that you would be able to contribute to that, we would love to be able to feature your artwork in the store. So, um, yeah, reach out to us. That would be great. Like I said, our big thing is just really giving back because you guys really kept a roof over Ben's head this last year and a half.
not
So,
that, and that's like yeah, like
and I'm not
figuratively
exaggerating
speaking.
in the least bit. I
Yeah,
mean, literally, you've kept a roof over his head, and
yeah.
we could not be more appreciative. So, even if it's a stick figure and you think that'd be great, and it's a stick figure with a really crazy dark twist to it, great, we'll put it on.
I
I
this is
mean,
like the guy that I'm speaking with at the moment.
mhm,
His name's Drew Millwood, and obviously, but this guy's going to do some t-shirt work for Dark Histories, and his stuff is
yeah.
awesome. Um,
Yeah, we're really excited. And
I'm
like I
so
said,
excited because
credit will
his work
always
is
be
so good.
given. Yeah. Why is there a butterfly on this? Oh, the logo, the butterfly logo, Ben.
Do you know
When
what? It's as old as the podcast. There is kind of a story behind it. It's a bit pretentious. So I don't know if you really want to
Yes,
hear it, but
he does.
I always thought that like taxidermy is like a really interesting thing in that it was this, people trying to preserve something in its like natural habitat and show it, but you're never really going to know, like you
Hi,
might see
Mr.
the
Bob.
best taxidermy in the world, but you're never really going to know, like, so with butterflies, like you can see like a taxidermy butterfly and like I've got them all over my house. But I don't really know what those butterflies are like unless you see them actually fly, right? Like you have to experience them. And so I feel like there was an interesting parallel between that and history, in that you can spend all the time in the world reading books and reading, like immersing yourself in like the newspapers and everything. You're never really going to know what it's like unless you get a time machine and like travel back and actually experience it, right? Unless you actually smell the air for yourself. Like, yeah, I can read, all the, that like like, you can try and set a scene, but you're never really going to know unless you go back in time. So that was just, that's the whole butterfly thing. And it's kind of just become an emblem of like Dark Histories now, that just sort of has stuck around throughout all the branding. It was kind of random at first. It was like, oh, I like taxidermy and I like butterflies, and I feel like there's this parallel to history, and I'm going to stick it in. But now it's kind of, it's sort of
It's kind of,
hard coded into the
yeah,
branding now.
it's just kind of iconic Dark Histories. And I think I really like, the current logo with the butterfly that kind of disintegrates, the Morelli. Oh, I can't wait for you to see it, Morelli. Um, the butterfly that disintegrates, the wings disintegrate. That was done by one of our listeners, named Courtney. And it was one of those things that, her and I were messaging back and forth, and I said, I've got this weird idea. I don't know how else to explain it except, and I described it to her. She's like, nope, I got it. And boy, didn't she ever. Thanks, Lotus. I try. I really do. That is too funny. Bat Moon People t-shirts. Okay. Hey, yeah. All right.
They were amazing. Yeah.
Bat Moon t-shirts. I'm writing this down.
I couldn't believe that guy's got the audacity that guy had to do that story, and just know that. Can you imagine approaching a newspaper editor and being like, I've got this story, yeah? And just knowing that it's complete fabrication, and having the balls to just go in there and go, wham. No, I'm just going to chuck that out there.
Yeah,
the
completely.
Audacity of that.
Like, no truth to it whatsoever. Oh, Shelley.
I did not know that, Shelley.
No, we didn't.
But
Nostalgia
that's
nerd.
That's nice.
I'm gonna have to look that up and listen. How neat! I've never listened to that, so that's really cool.
No, I have to say thank you.
Yeah.
And nice sadly, you've just got here, but we're kind of wrapping it up, aren't we?
I know. I feel bad. We're glad you made it, though.
But I mean, I'm not sure. Hopefully, it's worth listening again if you want to, but it will be up. But yeah, Hallie, have we got anything else to add? Because otherwise, that's pretty much that, isn't it?
Yeah. No. Just that the next season 6. Oh my gosh. Season 6 is scheduled to start dropping on January 16th. So we always drop in, the new season always starts like mid-January. Something to keep in mind, we think, I have found, and I think in retrospect, if you guys listen to him and you realize Ben will be taking a break in June and in December. Eleanor. Excuse her. In June and December, and it's just one of those things where I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity to understand, like, for every minute of content, there's an hour of work that goes into it.
It's fully relentless. like every time, I don't know how people put out podcasts once a week.
I don't. It's too much. But so taking a break in June and taking a break in December really kind of gives him that opportunity to sort of just kind of breathe and recompose himself. And I would say pay attention this year, and you'll realize that when he comes back with those episodes after his break, it's really, you can tell that he's had a break and it's done good. So we'll just ask you to kind of bear with us. But yeah, June and December, we've decided that way. It's kind of evenly spaced, 5 months on, 1 month off, 5 months on, 1 month off. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do this year. But yeah, season 6 is scheduled to drop on January 16th. Again, if you need to reach out to us, feel free to join the Discord. If you're not on there, you can always DM me if you have questions, or if you want to reach out regarding an advert or merch ideas or anything like that. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm always there.
Yeah, it's all on the website, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll drop a link so that to the Discord, just in case people want it. But that's the
Yeah.
the
It's
link to the
pinned on
Discord.
yeah, it's pinned on, like, Facebook and Twitter and all that too, so
Yeah, if you go to darkhistories.com, you'll find links to just about everything there. But
yeah,
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
about that. So otherwise, yeah, next time will be the Christmas campfire episode, um, which is cool. Um, I actually think YouTube channel might be a couple of episodes behind. Um,
Really?
yeah, because I use Headliner and that auto updates it, auto uploads it. So I don't pay a great deal of attention to the YouTube channel in terms of upkeep, because there's such just I don't like the comments are a cesspit. But
Oh, they are.
so yeah, but I think it might be, but I'll have to look into that because I think it's not been uploading. But anyway, yeah, next episode is going to be the Christmas campfire. So yeah, I'm sure I'll see you before Christmas, but if I don't, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. But yeah,
Happy Boxing Day.
yeah, exactly. Depending on when you listen to the Christmas campfire, you
There's a
may or
Biggles
may
in a
not.
box on the merch store. Just saying.
He's asleep at the moment. He's like zonked out, thankfully. Like, um, but yes, yeah. If I don't see you before, like if you don't listen to the Christmas campfire episode, then yeah, happy holidays.
Yeah.
Lotus Flower, it'll be the 24th. I'll,
Yes.
I'll be uploading that. But yeah, thanks
A
very
little
much
piece of coal.
for listening. Link to the merch.
Hold,
That
hold, hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. Give me a minute.
everything's on
Yeah,
darkhistories.com, but
everything's on there, but I will give it to you this very moment as soon as I can. And copy. Boom. Just like that.
yeah. But yeah. Say if I don't see you before, you don't listen to the podcast before, then yeah, say happy holidays to you and all your families, and
Yeah.
yeah, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy. Try at the moment, and have a nice holiday season or whatever.
Yeah. And thanks for another great year. Like an absolutely amazing year. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
it's been wicked. All right, I shall see you all soon. Thank you very much and obviously thanks very much for coming tonight as well.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for
cheers.
sure. Cheers.